All right. Thank you, Mandalee, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for our marketing in California adult education, ways to increase awareness and reach learners. And with me today, as Mandalee mentioned, I'll be the facilitator, and then our panelists will be Ilsa Paulette as well as Crystal Robertson, and their consortia are both named South Bay Consortia. So we have the South Bay Consortium for Adult Education, which is our kind of Bay Area, but in the South Bay of California. And then we have Crystal, who is representing the South Bay Adult Education Consortium, and she is further south in the San Diego region. So I thought it was pretty cool to have two South Bay Consortia on today. We actually had a brief discussion prior to the start of the webinar, and Crystal had asked how many South Bays are there now. So there are 3 South Bays. So yeah, it's cool to have both of them. Definitely friends and colleagues in the consortium realm, and I'm excited personally to hear about the work that they're doing around marketing within their consortium, and hopefully you all will learn something new. So before we get started, I do have a question to kind of generate some conversation for us as we start the lunch hour and begin to engage in this particular session. But a question that I have for you all is, what are some activities that either your agency and or your consortium are involved in as it relates to marketing? So that's one question. What are some activities that are currently going on? And then the second question is, as much as you can think of in this moment, because it's the question that I'm kind of putting on you guys on the spot, but what have been some of the outcomes that you have seen as a result of your marketing efforts? And you can think back of the past program year, especially as we are kind of trailing off of the 2022-23 program year. You can think of, within the past iteration of the 3-year plan, but what has been some outcomes that you have seen? So you can type your answers in the chat. I'll open up my chat here to kind of monitor that, or you can even come off mute. We're pretty small group this afternoon. So if someone wants to raise their hand and come off mute, I'll welcome that as well. But what are some current marketing activities that you're engaged in? Anyone? Okay, some things are coming in. Yay. So Teresa is letting us know that her institution looks like Elk Grove Unified community events like multicultural fairs. Okay. And then Baron says marketing. So they are engaged in social media, email segmentation, website, flyers, brochures, and newsletters. And then Michelle says they use newsletters from SMORE. Eric says that they are partnering with the college. Eric, what does that partnership with the college look like, if you don't mind? And you can either come off mute or you can type in the chat.
Yeah, we host some of their classes on campus, but also they advertise with their ESL students some of the classes that we offer here. So we're both promoting each other's classes with the students.
Wonderful, wonderful. And which adult school are you from, and what's your partnering college?
I'm at Ukiah Adult School, and it's Mendocino College.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have Therese. She says that they're still producing paper catalog. Michelle says that they're engaged in LinkedIn and Facebook. Stacy says ads in DMV, postcards, mail schedule of classes, as well as social media. Eric says advertising at the local church. Michelle says mail brochures. Mia says Carrick is engaged in Facebook ads and putting money to specific schools that need the boost for a specific program. And then Mia, if you don't mind, so when you say putting money to specific schools that need the boost for a specific program, are you saying that the money is going towards the Facebook ads or some other marketing activities?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So currently we are kind of in a a phase of trying some new things. And one of the things we decided to do this past semester from January until now is we have a certain amount of money budgeted for Facebook ads and marketing. And we decided to have the schools that have specific programs that are very under enrolled to let us know. We created the graphics for them. And then what we did is went ahead and boosted those programs anywhere from $250 to $500 per program. And we actually have seen an increase in inquiries to the actual school and them getting more enrollment. So we're still in the kind of tryout phase of this, but we're starting to get some data and having the schools collect information. Like when they get an inquiry, how did you hear about us? Did you hear about from Facebook ad? And that way, once we have our next marketing meeting, we can present that and then have a more detailed plan how we're going to use the funds and how much per school will designate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Mia. We appreciate it. And for those of you who probably aren't aware, Mia also works with the TAP team on our social media endeavors as well. So all of our social media posts are designed by her. So we wholeheartedly appreciate you, Mia. So Eric says flyers in the community, Anna says flyers, Facebook, social media, partner visits, social media again. So a lot of themes are coming up primarily around social media, the use of partnering as well as disseminating ads and catalogs, things of that nature. Michelle still says we have been working with marketing consultant to target messaging to specific populations like Spanish speakers, unemployed, and those without high school diplomas, and creating unique landing pages intent to distribute community locations and students. So thank you so much. So I really just wanted to start off with that because I know that in some form or fashion, most, if not all of everyone who's in attendance this afternoon are engaging in some type of marketing effort to promote your adult education program. So just an opportunity to kind of share some of the practices that are currently going on. And as we can see, there are a lot of themes across the board of similar types of marketing efforts that are currently taking place. So thank you all very much for engaging in that. And if you want to share some of the outcomes, please continue to do so in the chat. So I'll move us forward with our agenda. So we'll talk about our objectives. We will talk about adult education awareness through marketing. We'll have our panel presentations, which will be provided by Ilsa as well as Crystal from the South Bay Consortium for Adult Education, as well as the South Bay Adult Education Consortium. And then we'll do a little a panel Q&A where I'll ask them some questions about their marketing efforts, and then we'll have any questions that you all have, and then we'll talk about the upcoming PLC where we'll continue this conversation, because this session here is part one of the marketing webinar series as part of the statewide priorities, and then part two, which will take place next Wednesday, the 31st. We'll continue the conversation and continue to dive into some of those questions around strategies, questions around challenges, successes, so on and so forth. All right, and so our objectives again is to gain a better understanding of the CAP state priority when it comes to marketing, understand how adult education leaders such as Crystal as well as Ilsa and all of you are engaging in marketing and outreach efforts, and again, participate in a Q&A with the panelists. And so again, why are we focused on marketing? So as we all know and are currently experiencing, enrollment post-pandemic is, of course, not as it was pre-pandemic. And so there's an opportunity to continue to focus on enrollment as a measure of recovery of the pandemic. And so everyone is trying to increase their enrollment. So it's particularly important for us to continue marketing and outreach efforts in adult education to, again, get to where we were pre-pandemic if we are already not there. So we do know that there are some gains in the number of enrollees for CAP as a whole. So we do see an upward trend of our enrollment status at this time. But then also the CAP TAP team this past spring, we convened a small advisory of consortium leads, and we asked them some questions as part of a needs assessment. And so within that needs assessment, the consortium leads, as well as their members, because some of their members participated, they identified one of the critical issues that that they are currently dealing with centers around marketing and outreach, but it was marketing and outreach at a more at different lenses. So marketing and outreach as it relates to student enrollment and student engagement, as well as retention, but then also marketing and outreach to bring increased awareness around adult education, because as we all know, adult education is not widely known by everyone. And so there are opportunities to continue to increase awareness, but then also utilize the marketing and outreach practices to recruit educators, so recruit teachers and faculty at the college to teach in adult education. So those were some of the critical issues that consortia are currently dealing with as it relates to marketing and outreach to the field. And so that's one of the reasons why we're bringing this particular webinar series to you all, is because we want to continue to engage in dialogue about some of the practices that are taking place, so we can leverage ideas as well as practices and hopefully be able to continue to boost our marketing and outreach efforts. So then next we have the state priority for CAP. So by either a show of hands in the reactions, or you can type in the chat, is everyone familiar with the CAP state priority for marketing? Okay, so I see some no's, I see some yeses, I see primarily no's, not in great details, no's. Okay, so this is an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. And I saw Dana, your hand was raised because you were answering, hopefully that you are aware. But let me, hold on 1 second. My PowerPoint is not working. But here is the state priority. So there are 7 state priorities. So thank you, Dana, for confirming. So we have equity, we have leadership, learner transition, marketing, program development, program evaluation, and technology and distance learning as part of the CAP state priorities. And then we also have a link to a document that identifies all of the state priorities, as well as how consortia and agencies can respond to these particular priorities. So here's the verbiage taken from this particular document. And I was trying to access my notes. Holly or Mandalee, if you have the statewide priority document available, you can pull it. If not, I'm going to, hold on, let me reshare.
I'm trying to pull it up right now for it, and I'll share it out.
Okay, actually I just reshared, so I have it.
Oh,
But
okay.
thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate it. So here's the link to the document. And it will define all of the priorities and how programs can align to these particular priorities. And so I believe it was in the 2021-22 annual plan in particular, part of the guidance in the memo was asking consortia to respond to in their strategies that they were identifying to respond to these priorities. And so again, for all of the reasons that I mentioned beforehand, marketing in particular is a priority for CAP as a whole. So of course, marketing programs and learner recruitment are ongoing responsibilities for consortium members. It's vital for that local communities understand and support the regional consortia, and then programs aligned to this share successful marketing strategies and practices such as employing social media and marketing, budgeting for marketing, using data to target marketing efforts, or strategies for keeping marketing current and effective. And so just based on the responses that I saw in the chat, those of you who are aware of this are aligning your marketing efforts to these specific areas of the priority. So thank you for that. But for those of you who are unaware, now you are aware of this particular priority, but then you also have this document that outlines the other priorities. So that is why CAP is, of course, is vested in our marketing efforts. So then marketing and outreach, we want to, make sure that we're remembering when you are thinking or designing your marketing efforts, you want to make sure that you have a clear vision of what your marketing effort why you're doing marketing, but then also have goals in place and goals in place with actions to meet those particular goals. Thinking of marketing as, connecting with individuals, whether it be connecting with students, connecting with partners, building relationships, maybe even across your adult ed agency, or Eric had mentioned the partnership and relationship that he's has with his college and how they're leveraging each other's platforms in order to continue to market adult ed. So think of marketing of more than just a tangible flyer or catalog or anything like that, but really taking a vested interest in building those connections and relationships. And then ensuring current and prospective students see themselves in the program. So when you're thinking about the actual design of your marketing efforts, you want to make sure that, of course, you're hitting your target audience and making sure that your students really see themselves and are really connecting with the materials. Hopefully you all are thinking about engaging learners with showcasing past students' experiences. So, accomplishments that they have made within the program, learning gains that they have achieved within the program, but really showcasing what could be possible, especially for the prospective students, and then highlighting supports that are offered. So, if you have a robust transition program, you have clear pathways to post-secondary and or career. If you have supports to kind of remove some of the barriers that students experience, such as transportation, childcare, so on and so forth, highlighting those opportunities in your marketing efforts as well. So these are just a few of the points as an extension of the priority that I wanted to go over prior to us starting. And Anna says, I think you're referring to a different page. Anna, was that for me?
Yeah, but that was when you were going down, talking about the link, but I mean, you moved on already.
Oh, okay. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you so much. So yeah, so that's just kind of an opening to our continued learning experience this afternoon. So we will segue into our presentations from our panelists. And so we will start with Ilsa and the South Bay Consortium in her presentation. So I'll turn it over to Ilsa. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and then get started with your presentation. So I'll stop sharing at this time. Ilsa, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Veronica, and greetings, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you. I should say greetings from the South Bay Consortium in the north. We are located in San Jose, California, and as you can see on my Zoom background, we have 5 adult schools and 4 community colleges amongst our membership. And I'll be happy to share a little bit more about our consortium approach to marketing. So let me go ahead and share my screen. As opposed to individual marketing campaigns for each of our members and adult schools and colleges, we really wanted to take a consortium-wide approach to marketing and talk about our programs and services as a whole as one consortium. So we had our goals were kind of address 2 concerns. One was that it's not necessarily clear to the community who we are. What is an adult's education consortium? What is an adult school? How is it different from a community college? Like where do your programs and services live? What is your organizational structure as a consortium? So we really wanted to build something that would give us a unified presentation of the consortium and its members out to the community. From a learner perspective, we also wanted to build awareness and provide navigational support for learners so that they could find their way across 5 adult schools and 4 colleges. And we're all familiar with our acronyms and our terms, and it gets very technical, but to a community member, it can be very hard to understand where to get started and where to find the program that is right for them and that will meet their goals. We had done studies a few years back on how people access adult education, and we learned that in many cases, it's almost haphazardly. It's because there's a church down the road that offers an ESL class, or it's because my neighbor or my cousin went to an adult school and I hear about that from that person that I know. So word of mouth was a big part of that. And that means that maybe students start at the right place, maybe they could start at another point in along our pathways. And so we wanted to really guide them with navigational support and understanding of our programs and services. So our campaign started with consolidating our logo. We had two logos circulating, the one at the top, the orange swirl SBCAE logo that we had used since the beginning of the consortium. And then we also had an Open Doors logo, which was a targeted campaign we did a few years back. So both logos were circulating, both had websites attached to them, both had social media pages linked to them. So there was some confusion about what is Open Doors, what's SBCAE, how are they connected? And we decided to consolidate the logos and merge them into one, spelling out SBCAE as South Bay Consortium for Adult Education to convey who we are and describe who we are. And then we really like the idea, the concept, and the image of opening doors. So we kept that from the Open Doors campaign and used it as a tagline in the new logo, opening doors for adult learners. So we believe we've achieved kind of the best of both worlds with the new logo. And then we also kept the colors from the Open Doors campaign for consistency. So we started using, phasing out the old logo and introducing the new logo on our websites, social media, newsletters, internal documents, and whatnot. And so far, that's been going really well and has received many positive feedback. The second part of our campaign was to develop print materials as a consortium. So not focusing on the individual schools and colleges, but really presenting ourselves as a consortium. And we decided to create one consortium booklet, and I'll show that to you in a minute, with information about who we are and what we do at a higher level. And then we also created 3 program-specific trifolds or brochures for high school diploma and equivalency, career technical education, and ESL. We have since changed the name on the career technical education to just career education, because again, CTE is kind of the term that we are all familiar with. The word technical for the community sometimes has the connotation about it being about electrician and construction and really hands-on programs, where it's actually much more than that, much broader than that. So we did change it to career education in the next, in the latest round of prints that we made. So let me see if I can show you the consortium booklet real quick. So I'll stop sharing this one. I'm just trying to get the booklet up. Here we go. Okay. So this is our consortium-wide booklet. It's about 8 to 10 pages long. So it talks about who we are. We're a coalition of schools and colleges, and it shows at high level what you can do. You can learn English, you can get your high school diploma, we have apprenticeship, we have certificate programs. So it's just a taste of what we have to offer. And that pathway visual kind of shows it to people where you want to go. We can guide you along the way. The next page has information about who our members are with a little map so that people can find their location and in a recognizable format. And we also decided that we really wanted to have student success stories included in this so that people could recognize themselves in the story. And then having that little path to success visual for each student success story kind of shows the steps that someone might take to reach their goals. And then we have specific pages for each of our main program areas. So for ESL, can help achieve personal, academic, and career goals. There's another student success story. And then we wanted to talk about IET without using the acronym IET, because again, what does that mean to somebody in the community? So we landed on ESL for work as a more descriptive language for what IET is. So you're learning the language for the job that you want. And then we listed a few examples of the IET or contextualized ESL courses that we offer in our consortium. High school diploma, we wanted to give some overview of the difference between high school diploma, high school equivalency. and then also talk about dual enrollment as an option for our HSD students. Talking about career education and apprenticeship, there's another student success story there with a pathway. And then finally, the call to action is for students, if they're interested, to scan the QR code and then visit our website where they can learn more about programs and services and courses. Let me go back to my other presentation. So when it comes to the 3 program-specific brochures for high school, CTE, and ESL, one thing that was really valuable for us was to really think through visuals and how do we explain the different pathways and options that students have in a simple visual that students can or learners can immediately grasp. And we had been playing around with that for many years. We had multiple attempts on like how we built different models and pathways and something that looked like a subway map. And it just always came down to how do we take all this complex information and boil it down to something that's easy to understand, that will get people excited and will get them to understand that that is an option for them. So we really wanted it to be learner-centered and take a program approach versus an agency or system approach. We did not want to talk about you transition from adult school to community college, or you transition from non-credit to credit. We wanted to talk about transitions in the sense of transitioning from ESL to CTE, or transitioning from high school diploma to CTE, right? Or to a four-year college and whatnot. So really talking about it at a program level versus the agency or the system level. That led to some really interesting conversations. It was actually a very valuable exercise for us and helped us understand and develop that common vision of what a pathway is, what a transition is. And then other than it being used in our marketing materials, it also, those visuals now became a tool for counselors and transition specialists and other staff to sit down with a student and show them like, this is, you are here and these are your next steps. These are your options for your next step. So I wanted to show you some of those visuals that are included in our trifolds. This is our ESL pathway visual. So you see it starts with, you want to learn English, you start with taking ESL classes. You can go from beginning, intermediate to advanced. Once you hit that intermediate level or advanced level, that's where you can think about, do you want to branch off into ESL for community, things like citizenship or conversation classes, or ESL for K-12 success? Do you want to go into ESL for work? Again, those IET programs, or are you interested in ultimately transferring to college? And then we can guide you into an ESL for college with academic writing or ESL for college success. So it really helped us think about what our students' goals were, and then how do we branch them off into the right track for them. And as you can see, this does not mention adult school, community college, credit, non-credit at all. It's really at the program level that it's presenting the pathway for students. You'll see the same thing for our career education graphic. Trying to explain the difference between certificate programs, associates, and advanced degrees in a simple graphic. So it shows how long it would take a person to complete, what the focus is, what the cost is. That's where it gets tricky because it really depends. So we just landed on saying free or low cost, and it varies by location, or there's financial aid available. So it's still not an easy answer what the exact cost is, because it really depends on someone's personal situation. And then here it does show that certificate programs you can attend at an adult school or at a community college, but associate's degrees, advanced degrees, then you're moving on to a different system. And we wanted to show kind of the increase in pay scale as well with advanced degrees. So it shows the little dollar signs to show that potential for salary increases and wage gains. And then here is one from our high school diploma, high school equivalency brochure. It's a very simple way of explaining the difference between the two. And then some more information about GED and HiSET, because those are two options within the high school equivalency program. This has been a very helpful graphic that many of our schools have started using in their own materials to just show the difference between the two options. And then finally, we realize that everybody is still going to put out their own catalog and their own materials and their own online resources. So we created this catalog ad that's common for the whole consortium, but that all members can use in their own catalogs and in their own print materials. So they can just switch out the logo at the top left, put in the logo for their own agency, and it shows that in this example, Campbell Adult School is a proud member of the South Bay Consortium, and you can learn more by clicking and visiting our website for more information. So it makes so that the consortium is represented in the same way in each of our member catalogs, and then it builds that awareness for students about pathways beyond the agency level. They understand that they can go to Campbell to take an ESL class, but then Campbell is connected to this consortium, and that opens up so many more opportunities for them down the line. So this is the extent of our campaign so far. So we did the logos and then our print materials. We have those translated as well into Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese Mandarin. So we will have those available to in multiple languages for our community, and each school and college in our consortium will get a set of those print materials to hand out. We've also used them at fairs and community events so far. Next steps down the line is more closely connecting our websites to this new approach. And then we're also thinking about developing a consortium-wide CTE brochure that shows career education programs across schools and colleges in our consortium. So bringing it all together into a one-stop career education brochure. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll take a quick look at the chat, see if there are any questions.
There were questions. Well, first and foremost, people loved your booklet, and they are asking if they could receive a copy of it. So that was most of the information or question in particular. And then we have another question that from Janae. She wants to know, did you have an outside agency help with this, or was it done by the consortium members?
Okay, yeah, so I think somebody already put some screenshots in the chat from the booklet. I'll be happy to put a link in the chat later on too, to our booklet. I'm glad you all like it. We did work with an outside agency. We worked with an agency called Akadis Marketing. They actually did the brochure for one of our adult schools, and that's how we got connected. We really liked what they did for one of our members, and then we asked them if they'd be interested in working on a consortium project, and so they worked with us. And the benefit of that was that they were already very familiar with what an adult school is and what types of programs and services are offered. So they did not come in cold and new and not knowing what it is that we do. So that was very helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering that question. We did have a comment from Beth. She loves the logo. So great new logo. It seems clearer for the public. Kathy says, love the change to career education. It's much more inclusive. And then we have Michelle. The booklet looks great. Also like that the student stories are short and simple. And then the name of the company again.
Oh, it's called Akadis. I'll put a link in the chat as well. So I'll
Okay, perfect.
and the marketing company.
Perfect. And then Baron wants to know, what print materials do you find are most effective? Booklet versus brochure versus full print course catalog?
I think probably all of the above, depending on who you're talking to or what the context is, we organized a resource fair a few months ago, and then it was very helpful to have our booklet. That was the first thing that people received when they signed in for the event, and then we gave them our consortium materials, so they kind of could center themselves in like, oh, this is a consortium and I can expect to find information about all these schools and programs and services. The brochures were very helpful with students who are interested in one of our program areas. So they'll come and say, oh, I want to learn English, but then you can grab one of the trifolds and have a conversation about, okay, what is your goal? Do you want to learn English? Are you planning to go into the workforce? Are you planning to transition to college? Do you want to learn English to help your child in school? So it's very helpful to kind of go through those options and different pathways with students. And I don't have numbers yet, since they're fairly new. We had one round we had one print order. We've handed out all of them. We just put in a next print order. I think ultimately we'll have some data on it, because they come with a QR code. And so we'll be able to track how many people actually scan that QR code and land on the website. But I don't have that information quite yet.
Okay, and then Janae, as well as Mia, wants to know, how are you dispersing the booklets? Are you mailing them or some other mechanism?
We're not doing mailers at this time. We have them available at the front offices of each of our members, and we've also used them at community events. So at our own resource fair, and we're going to participate in a few other resource fairs in the community where we'll have them available as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Ilse? All right, I'm not seeing any questions as of right now, but we'll have time at the end if there are additional questions. So at this time, Ilse, thank you so much for your presentation. We'll see you in just a few minutes for our Q&A portion of this, but I'll turn it over to Crystal at this time, who will talk to us about the marketing efforts going on within her consortium.
Thank you, Veronica, and thank you, Ilse, for your presentation. I'm Crystal Robinson from the South Bay Adult Ed Consortium, all the way down in San Diego County. So when we say South, we really mean South. So if I can share my presentation here, we'll get started. So basically, my presentation is about targeted social media marketing. And I see from the beginning that a lot of you are already engaged in social media marketing. So some of this might be familiar to you. So, excuse me, a little bit about our consortium. We have 3 members, 1 college and 2 adult schools. It covers a good portion of San Diego County, and we have over 250,000 households in our service area and a very large community of need. So when we look at our community of need from our CAP fact sheets, we see, very large numbers of English learners, no high school diploma, low income. You can see all of that here. And we end up serving about 10,000 adults across 5 cities in San Diego County. So, so we have the capacity to serve more, but it gets challenging when we're covering so many different cities. Urban, rural, we have a pretty diverse area. So why did we get into social media? We found that it was a cost-effective targeted marketing. So meaning we could, blanket our 250,000 households with mailers, but that becomes cost prohibitive for us. And the way that we would do targeted marketing in the past was when, you know, you'd have a stack of flyers and you put them out into the community, still a very effective way to do marketing. But we wanted to pretty much, you know, get with the times and include social media. And we learned a lot through this process. It seems to be, you know, an effective way to do things. So we partner with Full Capacity Marketing, and we were not the first consortia that they've partnered with. But in San Diego County, I think there's one other consortia, at least that I know of, that's also partnering with Full Capacity Marketing. So we have Facebook and Instagram ads, and how it works is we have a consortium social media account on Facebook and Instagram. And the ads, they look as if the consortium is sending them out. So what that allows us to do is, so if someone sees an ad and they want to ask a question, they can just, you know, message the consortium account. You know, we get things like, oh, I see your ESL ad, but I also want to know if you offer keyboarding classes, something like that. And so the person that monitors our social media account is able to interact in that way. Our ad pictures are representative of our demographics. And our ads are by program area. Very similar to what Ilsa explained. We wanted to make sure that we were advertising the program, and, you know, Ilsa explained it beautifully. It would just be too confusing to say, you know, non-credit versus adult versus college, like it's just too much, you know. So the community, they want to know what program they're getting into. So that's how they are. And you know, it works in multiple ways. So it becomes an awareness ad if the ad is coming through on your feed on Facebook or Instagram. You're able to interact with the ad itself. If you click on the ad itself, then it takes you to a landing page, and you can input your personal information on there. And that goes, if there's somebody on our side monitoring all these leads coming in. So these are people clicking on the ad, putting in their personal information so we can then follow up with them. So we follow up with them via text message and via email. We also do phone calls, but we learned that nobody really picks up their phone, but text messages and emails work well. And those text messages and emails include registration links. So if the ad, for example, if the ad is for our welding program, there's only one welding program at one location. So we send them the registration link for that location. If somebody is interested in ESL, that one gets a little bit more complicated. Since everybody offers ESL, we follow up with them. We ask them, you know, are you looking for more academic ESL or workplace, or what's your location? And they are really good about giving us more information that way if we do it via text message or email. And then from there, we're able to direct them to the right place. So here are some samples of our ads. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, people from our consortium, they say, you know, what do our ads look like? Well, it depends on where we are in the campaign. Usually a campaign is like about 6 weeks long. And if it's the beginning of the campaign, the ads are constantly changing because the algorithm is learning which pictures, which combinations of wording is going to be most popular. And then towards the end of the campaign, you have more consistent looking ads. So I just grabbed a few. These are not necessarily the final products, but just to give an example of what they look like. So this one on the left would be an example of an ESL. And we do have very large Spanish-speaking population. And we get reports from the company that tells us which ones were the most popular. So the first time around, our high school diploma was the most popular by far, which is kind of a smaller program for us. So we that was great. Getting the word out about our high school diploma program, followed by ESL, which is the largest program. And this most recent campaign that we had, our career training ads were the most popular by far. This table in the middle here, this is just a snapshot of a report that we had, just a little piece of information from a report. So it'll tell us the impressions. So the impressions are the number of times the ads appeared in people's feeds. And so you can see here that's a lot of impressions, 809,000. Reach is the number of people who saw the ad. So that's a very large number as well, 332,000. Clicks to the website. So that's the number of people who clicked on the ad itself. And that was 8,893. And then leads. So that's the end piece. They clicked on the ad, plus they gave us their personal info, so their name, their phone number, email address, all that. So you see here 855. And then here's a couple more of the ads here on the right hand side. So we have lots of flexibility with our ads. With CAP, we are supposed to target specific demographics, and it's very easy to do so with these social media ads. So we can target English learners if we wanted to, which we do. We know all of this, and the Facebook and Instagram algorithms are really good at targeting those populations. We can target, in real time, we can look at our enrollment data, and that's something that we do, especially for our career training programs. So let's say we want to boost our drone operator program, and we find that, on this day, we've reached our capacity for that program. Then we can say, okay, stop those ads and redirect funding. So we're not going to continue to pay for ads advertising that drone program since it's full. So now we can say, okay, redirect toward ESL or some other program that needs an enrollment boost. It's very easy to just, flip and pivot in that way. They can create student profiles or lookalike audiences on platforms that match our student demographics and interests. And we haven't gotten to this part yet, but we could target, things like African Americans without a high school diploma, like very extremely targeted. We're not quite there yet. We look at our past campaign performance. Now that we've done this about 3 times already, we've learned a lot, and especially about wording and pictures and times, also times of year, and trying to coordinate start times with 3 different districts, since they're not all on the same calendar. We want to maximize our ads in that way. And like I mentioned before, we can make course corrections. So if one program is full, we can again pivot and advertise to another program. So things that we learned, some considerations for a successful campaign. Ads by CTE pathway are better than general career training ads. So meaning in the beginning, our first campaign, we would have ads that say, you know, study for a career or something like that. It's just a general career training ad. And we found that if we target the actual pathway that we're trying to fill, that was a lot more popular. And if you look on the left-hand side, like this first row, all three of these are for a drone operator. And this is an example of like the ad is learning. So it would pump out with these pictures and it would change pictures, and then it would see like which ones are more popular. So we ended up with this last one over here. So for some reason that picture was performing better. Same thing with security officer down here. So we have different pictures going out there, and then we ended up with this last picture here. That was a more popular ad. And down below, we have, these are just three different ads here. This one on the left is for child development. Next one is for optical technician, and the last one is registered behavior technician. And so again, when we're spelling out the actual pathway, we found that was more effective. And we assign team members for follow-up. So there's someone designated, like a small portion of her day is to check the leads that are coming in. And it ends up being, you know, like a handful of leads per day. So as long as she does it daily, then it doesn't become too cumbersome. But her role is to follow up with those leads. And the reason we do that is because we learned that we need to nurture the lead. So when it comes to marketing, it really requires 5 to 12 touch points. That's how they describe it. So every time that you're engaging with your audience, that's one touch point. So the fact that, you know, they see the ad in their feed, that's one touch point. They see it again in their feed, that's another touch point. Then the third time they click on it, that's another touch point. And then they get a text message back, that's another touch point. And then somebody's following up with it. So it's like, it takes about 5 to 12 interactions or touch points for somebody to actually make that step. I mean, that's should be that way for anything. It doesn't have to be with social media, any kind of marketing that you're doing. And to leverage our consortium social media accounts. So again, the fact that these ads are coming from our consortium account, it's an actual account that they can interact with the account. That's been very helpful as well. And something that we need to get better about is asking, how did you hear about us at registration? At this point, 2 of our members are asking that, and the third one is working on getting that done. But that's really how you're going to know how effective it is, because if you're just looking at the leads that you're generating, like those are the people that, again, they actually took the time to put in their personal information. But it's also, you know, you're seeing the ad and you could just, it could have done it for them, you know, you could have registered from there anyways. So that's our last kind of piece that we need to get better on. And then here, this is just another kind of snapshot from a report that we've gotten. So you can see the reach by campaign. You like this first row is demographics for the CTE sub campaign. This one is they call it GED, but it's GED high school diploma campaign. Demographics for ESL campaign. And for each one, you can see by gender, female, male, by age, and by platform. So the green being Instagram and the blue being Facebook. So it really depends on what program area you're targeting for. You're going to see pretty different demographics and which platforms are performing better. So that's very, very interesting to see as well. So I'm going to stop there.
All right, thank you, Crystal, for all of the details regarding your social media efforts and your partnership with Full Capacity Marketing. We do have a few questions for you. One is from Iris. She asked, do you have an assigned person to manage your media site, or is it an additional duty for someone already staffed at one of the sites?
It's an addition. Well, so on the consortium staff, it's me and one other person on the consortium staff. So she's a classified clerical staff member. So she has her duties, and this is just one of her many duties, is to check these leads and to interact with the consortium social media account.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And then Mia asks, can you share your landing page where you collect the personal information for your leads?
Yeah. I have to give me a minute.
Okay. No worries. And if it's not too much, we did have a question that you did answer in your presentation, but so that we can have the question and answer for the recording, if you don't mind answering it again. Are you paying fees to have these ads show up in the news feeds?
Yes, so each campaign is about $15,000.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
And a campaign is a 6-week campaign.
Got it, thank you. All right, any additional questions for Crystal as she is finding the landing page to share?
I have a question. This is Kelly from San Diego.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hey, Crystal, what text messaging program are you all using?
So it's through Full Capacity Marketing.
Okay.
So they're the ones, I'm not actually sure what they use, but they're the ones following up.
Got it.
Okay.
That might be a topic, Ronica and State TAP, just because there's lots of different text apps that can be used, some with a cost and some are less, and some are connected to our student data systems. I'm learning that we have a text campaign that's part of our campus solutions, which is my brain is lapsing. Anyways, it's part of, I can't remember that it's a system a lot of other people use. Anyway, so it's just something that it's a cost or could be a cost, but I think that that's something in terms of getting us modernized with how we're communicating with students and potential students is texting is, seems like it's the appropriate way for us all to go, so.
Yeah, we're hearing of more and more consortia and agencies who are using text message to communicate with students, even to go through the registration process, so on and so forth. So yeah, thank you. And Corinne, you came off of mic. Do you want to add something?
Thank you. Yes. I want to know for both the South Bay Consortia and also for Mia, do you set aside money in your annual allocations for marketing or in your general fund? Our general, that's the one thing I have a challenge with our members is that they each receive an allocation, but there's nothing for marketing. There's nothing for anything else we want to do. I have to go back and ask them, would you mind contributing to this? So how do you have that conversation?
Can I answer that? So we have a shared pot. So the marketing comes from there. Yeah, I don't know, we've always had that, so we haven't had that kind of conversation, but it is pretty dedicated, like marketing, we know that marketing is always going to be a part of what comes out of that shared pot. So that's how we do it.
And it's similar for us. We actually did not have marketing identified in the budget, but we had some rollover funds in our shared consortium funds that we used for this particular campaign. And so probably going forward, we will add a budget item for marketing because people are seeing the value of it now that we have done this. So hopefully going forward, we can like set aside some funds from the shared consortium-wide funds for this effort.
If you don't mind, Veronica, just one more question. We do have a shared fund that covers my salary, my assistant, who's part-time, and that's about maybe a little bit more for office supplies. I mean, there's not a lot left after that. And that was a stretch in getting them to understand that this is something that has to be funded. I mean, everyone's looking at, you know, they, of course, trying to maximize the funding for themselves. And so how do you get to have that conversation to let them know that with the consortia, it's a benefit of sure, but there are expenses that come along with it that need to be met that benefit everyone? How do you do that in such a way where that your consortium members are open to it? Or or have you had that experience, I should say?
Could I share really quick? I can't get on video because I'm driving.
Yes, go ahead.
So yeah, so we have a marketing and outreach for Carrick. We have a marketing and outreach meeting we hold 2 times a year. And just like South Bay, we have a shared pot. The way they came about that, from my understanding, is that they agreed from the beginning that money would go into marketing and outreach as a consortium. And then we decide at these biannual meetings how much money is going to be spent on marketing and outreach and how we're going to do that. And so we've done different things through the years. We've tried different things and we're still, tweaking, but that's kind of how we've done it. And the meetings have been really helpful to discuss with our consortium members and those in particular that are in charge of marketing and outreach and how to go about that.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Corinne, for asking those thoughtful questions. We did have, was there another question? Okay, so Eric, he said that they use Technovine for their texting and sharing files with students. And then Kelly says we are direct funded with SDAERC, but we as a member agency, so the San Diego continuing education, I forget what the other C is. She's going to type it in, but
we're now the College of Continuing Education. Sorry.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. They're allocating marketing funds and they often use braided funds unless it's a CAP program specific. And then Michelle mentioned that they have worked with full capacity marketing too, and that they are great and they've provided marketing instruction to their school sites. Very good stuff, even if you can't afford a full marketing campaign. So that's another opportunity as well, if you will like to work with them. And then Ms. E. Banks says, is there a fund within the 7 categories that allows for marketing allowances in the state fund? So are you asking if setting aside monies for marketing efforts, is that an allowable use of funds?
Yes, that's my question.
Okay, yes, it is an allowable use of funds. And then also in the fiscal management guide, it talks about, especially at the consortium level, that under the pragmatic section for the consortium, that is an allowable use of funds for designing marketing materials, so on and so forth. As long as the marketing materials, of course, are aligned to the 7 program areas, the consortium, so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So go ahead and type those questions if you do have them. I do have some questions that I would like to ask. Crystal, were you able to share the link for the landing page?
Yeah, I mean, I can share like what it looks like, but since it's deactivated right now, so we're not doing the campaign. But I can share, like, this is like this came from our landing page and then has some typing on it, but when you click on the ad, so we chose these pictures to represent our demographics, and like when you go, just underneath these pictures is contact us type of thing, and so it has boxes for your contact information, but there isn't a lot of information. It's just you clicked on the ad because you want to give us your contact information, and that's it. So they can't really do anything else other than that from the landing page. That helps.
All right, thank you, Crystal. And I do have a follow-up question to you, Crystal, in particular. So I saw in your data matrix that you had identified 855 leads within one of your campaigns. And I know you had mentioned that not all of your adult schools are following up with the prospective learners or those who enroll in the program about how they heard about the program, but do you have any data on, of those 855 leads, how many enrolled in the programs?
Well, our problem is our largest member isn't asking.
Oh, okay, okay.
So we have data from our smaller members, and considering, so one member is about 95% of the consortium, and they're the ones not asking. So if we look at the other two, considering they only make up about 5% of the consortium, we did get I don't know, I'd say maybe like 40-50 students from those.
Okay, wonderful. And then one more question. So how many, and you may have mentioned this, and I'm sorry if you're repeating yourself, but how many campaigns have you had with full capacity marketing?
We've had 3.
Okay, and so have you seen in the metrics that you had identified, have you seen any changes across the 3 campaigns? Increases, decreases?
Well, just the fact that when we changed our career training from career training to the actual pathway, that resulted in more clicks and more leads on those particular pathways. Before that, when it was just career training, nobody was really clicking on those ads. But they were clicking on the other program areas. So now we see that when we are specific in our career training programs, those are pretty much as popular as the other ads, because I think it's more clear to people what we're talking about rather than just a general career training.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm just looking at the questions that I have proposed, which you guys have answered some of them, so thank you for that. One of the questions that we have not touched on in particular is, what have been the most significant challenges with addressing marketing, and how have you addressed them? And also what resources are being utilized to address those challenges? And either one of you, if you would like to share your experience.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go for that one. I think that looking at it from the consortium perspective, I think the main challenge was communicating our pathways. And because in order to communicate your pathways, you need to have a shared and solid understanding of what those pathways are. So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, right? You want to attract students to your programs, but then you also want to make sure that once they're there, that the pathway is clear and the steps are clear. So it's either like you build it first and then you communicate, or you communicate first and then you build the pathways as students are there. So that's been a challenge, but also a very rich opportunity for us to have those conversations about, okay, so what exactly are the options for English learners, and what are the transition points if they want to go into college, career, community tracks, and so on. So I think it's just helped us understand and communicate better about what our landscape looks like.
Thank you, Elsa.
Yeah, I would say something pretty similar. You know, our members were very clear that they didn't want to lose their name recognition in the community. They all felt like the community recognized, you know, the individual members. But then when it came to, again, like we said in the beginning, you know, the college sending out a non-credit, you know, catalog in the community. Yeah, they recognize the name of the college, but not necessarily what the programs, you know, how they fit into those programs, and just trying to have the community figure all that out. It's a lot. So that's why we did want to, I mean, so everybody still continues to do their own individual marketing. But our consortium marketing, we wanted to make sure that we were focusing on the programs themselves, and not, you know, college versus adult ed versus credit, or, you know, so just leave all of that till later and get them where they need to be based on what they want. You know?
Thank you both for those responses. So I know you, Crystal, are your campaigns were social media campaigns. Also, with your booklets, have you all done anything online via social media to promote the new booklet?
Not consistently, no. That is something that we want to be more intentional about in the, you know, starting next school year, and starting with assigning it to someone, right, to have the responsibility for social media, because now like when everybody does it, sometimes nobody does it.
Right.
So I think just assigning that task will help us move that forward.
Okay, thank you. And we talked about funding, which was one of the questions that I had. And so in addition, to using CAP funds, are you braiding any other funds or partnerships to fund your marketing efforts?
We haven't braided funds, but we are sharing those materials with our community partners. So, and I think I failed to mention that when the question came up of where we distribute the materials. So we're also sharing those print brochures with our community-based agencies for them to give out to their clients. So that's leveraging that partnership. And I can envision maybe in the next iteration of the consortium booklet to add our partner logos to that, for example, right? So that it's a bit of a win-win, and we promote each other's programs more.
Thank you.
Yeah, for our consortium marketing, that's CAP. We aren't braiding any other funds. And then the adult schools, since they're all CAP, then whatever they're doing for marketing is CAP funded. But the college, since they do have multiple funding sources, when they do their own individual marketing, they are braiding funds, so CAP plus other funding to get that done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So last but certainly not least, do either of you have any closing thoughts or final takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience?
Go ahead, Elsa.
Yeah, it's, I'm thinking there's so many things, right? I think said, pay attention to marketing. It's sometimes it's easy to overlook. So my advice would be like, bring a few people together and really think through what you want to achieve, how you might achieve it through marketing and outreach, and then work with, it's been for us been very helpful to work with a marketing agency that understands adult ed, and I hear that from others too, working with Full Capacity Marketing. We have a long track record of working in this space, and that was just a huge help for us to work with professionals who understand our field.
Yeah, and I learned that honestly, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, whether you're doing postcards or brochures or social media or you know, bus ads. Doesn't really matter what, but it's just being consistent with it. And in order to do that, you have to have consistent funding in order to keep it up. So I guess that's pretty much the starting point is your consortium motivated and dedicated enough to consistently fund whatever marketing effort you're going to have.
Thank you for that. And for everyone in our audience, our attendees, any additional questions for Elsa and or Crystal? All right, I'm not seeing any, but if you do have any, we do have a few more minutes, so definitely feel free to post those questions in the chat. Outside of that, we do have our part 2 next Wednesday, May 31st, which is our PLC. So we can continue this conversation and hopefully dig deeper into questions, issues, so on and so forth, sharing of practices, all of those great things. So thank you to Crystal as well as Elsa. Thank you so much for coming and participating and sharing all of the wonderful work that you all are doing within your consortium to reach a larger community and really get the word out about what's going on within adult ed, all of your agencies and colleges and the consortium. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you all for attending. I will pass it over to Mandalee, who will close us out.
Thank you, Dr. Parker, and thank you attendees for spending the afternoon with us. A special thanks to Elsa and Crystal for sharing some of the best practices and just marketing strategies that you're using. I know that I found it very insightful, and from the questions that were asked, it looks like a lot of people did as well. So truly thank you for spending your afternoon with us as well. And to our attendees, if you would just take a moment, my colleague Holly has dropped in our evaluation link. If you all will just take a few moments to fill out that evaluation link, it truly does help us as we develop professional development for our spring and fall sessions, just giving us some feedback that we can also share with our presenters as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out, and thank you all for spending your afternoon with us. Have a great day.